Welcome to the Learning Never Stops podcast, where we explore the dynamic intersection of AI, video technologies, and learning in higher education and enterprise. I'm Scott Nadzen from Panopto, and today we're thrilled to explore everyone being a presenter in enterprise and education with our special guest, Liam Hayter, product manager from VizRT. VizRT is short for Visualization in Real Time. They're a global company that creates visual storytelling tools for media creation, in education, enterprise, broadcast, sports, and esports. In this episode, we'll discuss how VizRT enabled broadcasters to deliver the 2024 presidential election. We'll also learn how NDI is powering university classrooms worldwide. And hopefully we'll get a sneak peek of VizRT's integration of AI into their product lines. So whether you're an AV professional, L&D professional, tech leader, educator, or just looking to learn, this episode will deliver valuable video learning insights and best practices from a leading video company, making an impact in more than 100 countries worldwide. More importantly, I hope you learned something. Let's dive in. Liam, thanks so much for being here. Can you start by sharing a bit about VizRT's video solutions and technology?
Yeah, sure thing, Scott. We've got two main technologies here at VizRT. One is our TriCaster integrated live production systems that have been used for all scales of live production, from small scale content producers through to some of the largest high-end broadcasters, where we move our TriCasters into the cloud. The other main technology that we have is VizEngine. That is what we use to bring live graphics in real time. So that's things like the election graphics you may have seen recently, most news graphics, and sports production graphics through that real-time engine into our live broadcast. But we also have a third technology that we've developed, which is called NDI, or Network Device Interface, which is how we move video and audio across standard Ethernet networks, starting as small as a gigabit, through to some of the largest deployments, even international deployments where we can start moving across the public internet. Now, NDI is a separate business unit now. We've decided to separate that away from our key technology so it can have a life of its own with the burgeoning, ever-growing third-party ecosystem available to the customers.
So how does your hardware support content creation in educational and enterprise environments?
At VizRT, while many of our products such as the TriCaster and even our PTZ cameras present as hardware, in fact, actually, it's our software that's actually under the hood on those devices, because VizRT is a software company first and foremost, and always has been. And that extends all the way through to our use of NDI as a software-defined AV over IP protocol, which means we can even use mobile phones and laptops as content creation sources with those devices. What's fantastic about our integration with Panopto, for example, though, is we have the CaptureCast, which is a virtualized server that can sit in the middle of all of this, enabling tier 1 broadcast studios through to content creation and classrooms, meeting rooms, and anywhere in between to integrate with Panopto's remote recorder functions. So then that means that we can bring the world of AV over IP and VizRT's creative software tools to enable any visual storytelling that someone could imagine.
That's amazing. It's incredibly powerful. So how do you see your partnership with Panopto enhancing learning experiences across different regions, particularly within enterprise and educational environments?
Where we integrate with Panopto is through our CaptureCast meeting and event capture system. So this actually allows us to virtualize up to 3 rooms concurrently on each individual server, but also use workflow-based templates so customers can start and stop on a schedule any capture of any room, space, or studio. So because that actually integrates with Panopto's remote recorders, that enables us to actually bring whole spaces that previously might have been left behind. So a great example of this in education is where you have media training colleges. They might be teaching the next generation of journalists or the next generation of studio managers or camera people. And now we can actually bring those studios, which traditionally would be isolated, they'd be carved away and be their own little silo with lots of manual media transfer management. We can now connect that through NDI to the CaptureCast, and that can all in turn be controlled by Panopto through remote recorders, which now enables us to actually bring those media schools, those content creation spaces to life, and still integrate that with Panopto's video management system so students can access, review, learn and mark their content on the other side. That, of course, then now extends to the corporate market the other way, where we have a real large presence in corporate video communication, corporate studios, meeting spaces, and exactly the same methodology can apply there through VizRT and Panopto to enable people to record any event wherever it may happen, even on demand.
Excellent. So engagement is central to effective learning. How does VizRT help educators and trainers create more compelling interactive video content?
VizRT helps educators and trainers actually create more dynamic, engaging content. One of the key things that we learned over the last few years is that with the development of everyone now actually learning to be on camera and present, that actually content can become quite monotonous. So one of the ways we can help bring that to life is through things like our Virtual Studio Go system. This enables us to take the very same cameras that we use for recording lessons and meetings and events, but augment that with augmented reality graphics, which can be as simple as bringing in a PowerPoint. So combined with our camera tracking and the AI solutions embedded in our cameras, this means that presenters don't just have to be in a two-way split box. It doesn't have to be a full screen presentation and a camera. Your presenters can now actually occupy the same space as the media and the content. We can bring graphs and dynamic graphics to life, even things like bar charts coming out the floor, as well as augmenting that with traditional PowerPoint content. Another way that we can help do this as well is that in our TriCaster systems, we have all the full effects that you expect on any broadcast system, including mix effects for compositions, integrated virtual studio technology, but also now we can integrate with things like Microsoft Teams, just like Panopto do, where we can actually make that live production part of a video call, bring in remote participants, remote learners, remote presenters that maybe couldn't attend that particular session on the day, and still make them part of that training and that meeting so nobody is left out.
So you mentioned the TriCaster. How long has that been around? That's a powerhouse.
Yeah, TriCaster has actually been developed since around early 2000s. I think it's 2004 was the launch of the first TriCaster to the market. But actually our legacy of being a software-defined production tool goes back to the Video Toaster in the 1990s. So actually, if we go right back then, we were one of the very first companies to actually bring a live production software-based solution to the market. Even when a lot of people in the industry said, oh no, software is not the way to go. Actually now in recent years, it's proven it because everything has moved to software, it's all moved to computers, and therefore it's all becoming network enabled and allowing us to share content between these different locations. And actually, when it comes to AV over IP, we launched the first TriCaster in 2004, but it's actually around then we started our journey to AV over IP, where we had technologies like AirSend and then later IVGA, which in turn became NDI in 2015. So software and networks, we've been doing this for quite a while now to enable fantastic storytelling.
Yeah, the amount of experience is incredible.
Yeah.
Hybrid and remote learning are crucial. How does VizRT design its software to support flexible, high-quality video experiences in classrooms and workplaces?
When it comes to VizRT software for workplaces and classrooms, it really comes down to the distributed approach that we take with our solutions. So when it comes to building out, say, a classroom, an event space, or even a studio, because we use NDI behind that, it means that we can actually just deploy capture devices such as PTZ cameras or presentation capture devices like our VizConnect Solo, and even capture software natively on the network with single Ethernet cables to each device. This means that setup is super simple. You don't need to lay down any dedicated cabling or wiring like you may do with traditional video and lecture capture systems. And because they're then on the network, it means that every single room and space potentially could be captured, controlled, and even automated. Behind that then in turn, we'd actually put devices like our CaptureCast, which is a software-based event and lecture capture appliance. Takes up 1 RU of server space, which would typically live in your data center rather than in the room like traditional capture solutions. And the same thing can apply to things like our TriCaster or things like Viz Virtual Studio Go for AR graphics. They can live in your data center, your IT closet, on-site, or even at remote locations if you so wish. By then scaling that out, it means that those services are available from every single room and event space that has network access, again on location or even at remote distributed sites that you may have. And we can use CaptureCast to automate the capture of those devices, bringing in low latency video, audio, and even graphics into the mix to enable capture available to anyone, anywhere. On top of that, of course, then we have our integration with Panopto, so users don't need to learn the technology that's behind it. They don't need to learn the transition to AV over IP. You just use Panopto as you would with any other remote recorder solution, but you're automating a whole content creation network behind the scenes through the integration with our other software products.
So Liam, you've been around a long time. You've been playing the game a long time, which I love. What is your favorite CaptureCast feature or solution?
There's actually two aspects to it. One of them is actually the in-room automation that we developed. So The ability to actually have cameras pointing away at the wall or the ceiling or the floor, so that when spaces aren't being used for capture, people don't feel like they're constantly being watched. Cameras can be off-putting, and we recognize that. So that, combined with the inbuilt tally function, which means the light turns red on our devices when they're being recorded, which removes the need for an in-room record light. We've seen these USB record lights that are hooked up to computers here and there. We can leverage that broadcast tally. We can leverage our camera automation so that when you do want to record in a space, it can swing into action. The camera's in the right spot every single time. But if you're creating flexible spaces, you can use the same devices, the same hardware, to have multiple setups in the same room. Maybe you're teaching down one end of a room for one type of lesson or lecture, or you're doing training from another space. The room can be reconfigured by CaptureCast. But this takes me on to the other part, which is actually our integration with Panopto, because Panopto's remote recorders are really seamless in talking back to CaptureCast, that we can then drive the automation, which is what we do so brilliantly on our side. But then, as I said, the user experience is still driven through Panopto, so they don't even know it needs to happen, because you just drive that virtual template for that room, that virtual remote recorder, to kick it into action, run another template, and the room can be set up completely differently, and you can just focus on actually telling stories, telling your content, doing your training and presentations.
No, that's great, and we know remote recorders are one of the global favorites for our solution, so that's great. Liam, how is broadcast AV being threaded into enterprise and education?
Broadcast AV has really come to fruition this year into the market. There's been this convergence between computers, software and networks, not only in the AV market, but also in broadcast. And actually that meant that even though they've traditionally been separate, almost like silos, with very sort of closed access to one world or the other, they're naturally threading together. More people are using software, they're used to being on camera, they're used to presenting. And so actually now people want to actually up their game. So bringing broadcast level technologies down into the AV market has emerged into this broadcast AV space, which is very fluid. It's moving very, very fast. And we're seeing a lot of richness in the types of content that people are requesting to build, but also actually the quality bar that they want to increase. And again, it's about that viewer engagement part. If you create dynamic, interesting content, you integrate things like virtual studios, augmented reality into the space, and actually start being more creative, mix things up a lot more, you can retain your viewer engagement to a much higher level than if you traditionally just do standard picture-in-picture or full-screen PowerPoint. The tools are there to make it super easy and super fast for anyone to increase the engagement.
So Liam, Panopto is big on automation. I've learned a lot about VizRT, and you guys are big on automation. Why is that important for our collective customers?
Automation in live content creation is key for a number of reasons. One of them is repeatability, particularly if you want to actually maybe deliver the same presentation again and again, or maybe you want to have repeatable setups for lecture and training capture. Automation enables us to ensure that the cameras and devices are set up and in the right time, the right place, and the right framing, but still retain the ability for people to customize the experience too. Automation can trigger a preset setup. It can trigger graphics and branding throughout the whole pipeline. And in fact, when it comes to our automation technologies, that starts with VizMozart, which is used to automate things like the evening news and the afternoon news at major studios around the world. And then our lower level automation extends to where we have CaptureCast workflow templates to trigger presets for cameras and devices to ensure, again, right place and the right time. But we have a middle ground for automation, which is on our TriCaster live production systems. Now they're incredibly advanced. They allow you to gather up to 44 live NDI sources from the network to create dynamic, engaging content. Also allow you to bring in your audio and your graphics. But we have a function called macros on those products, which means that in effect, you can record any sequence of operations on those products to make them repeatable, particularly for tasks that get repetitive or demanding for the operator, and ensure again that even things can be sequenced every single time that you want to do another take.
That's excellent, and I think for the listeners or viewers, I mean, the picture in your mind is when you're watching broadcast news, all of that needs to be automated and simplified for those producers and content creators. So yeah, that's great.
Exactly, and that can extend to robotics too. We can move cameras on tracks, we can have cameras on robotic arms if you want. A PTZ camera is just a very, very small robot, so that gives a lot of creative potential for setups and operation.
What are the most exciting innovations or features VizRT has recently introduced, especially for environments that rely on capturing high-quality educational or corporate video?
This year we just introduced two new members of the TriCaster product family, the TriCaster Mini S and the TriCaster Vision. TriCaster Mini S allows people to take all of the power of our TriCaster Mini turnkey platforms for content creation, but deploy that on a number of qualified laptops and also desktop workstations, enabling anyone to start taking advantage of the creative technologies and video production capabilities that TriCaster can offer, even on your own laptop, which makes it perfect for live events and flyaway scenarios. Secondly, we introduced the TriCaster Vision, which is our new flagship TriCaster. It's our first time delivering TriCaster on commercial, off-the-shelf hardware and has unprecedented power and control behind it. It's available without any baseband video at all for those customers that just want to work with up to 44 channels of NDI, even at 4K, but it's also available traditional baseband if you wish to use it. But what we've introduced on the TriCaster Vision particularly is actually we're introducing AI gaze correction to ensure that presenters and CEOs, people maybe not always comfortable on camera, actually always presenting the right way and actually looking to their audience, even if they're not comfortable enough to do so themselves.
I can imagine that tool or feature is going to be very popular. So Liam, as you know, the video tech market is wildly competitive. From your perspective, what key elements differentiate VizRT's solutions from other video capture technologies?
The video technology market isn't just competitive, it moves at a pace. It's moving faster and faster in the last few years as more and more people are adapting to being on camera and presenting and learning to actually increase their communication and their audience engagement. What separates VizRT's technologies apart from some of the others in the landscape is that we are first and foremost a software company. We always have been since the 90s and we will always continue to do so. This means that we can actually give free software tools that enable you to actually turn your webcam or even capture your screen into a network-enabled source that can then be used with everything from our CaptureCast to TriCaster production systems, all the way through to augmented reality and virtual studio graphics. So we can actually really lower the entry point for accessibility, democratizing the access to live production technology, but then also scale up as those customers get more confident. You can really start small, start really simple with a setup with just a single camera, a single laptop, and Virtual Studio Go, for example, and scale up as needs demand. We see many customers start with maybe a single room, a single event space, but as they start leveraging and actually getting used to working with their IT team, using NDI, our AV over IP protocol, rapidly that starts scaling out across whole buildings, campuses, corporations and estates, and even onto private networks. We have customers connecting their offices globally on wide area networks just using NDI, which is an incredibly powerful asset for content creation at any level.
So Liam, did you just say free tools?
Anyone can download a free suite of NDI tools from ndi.video. These encompass NDI screen capture, which allows you to turn any Mac or PC into a source of NDI. That can include your webcam, a microphone, even the inbuilt mic, and capture your screen, even screens from external graphics cards. That then turns that into NDI, and then another tool we have is called Studio Monitor, which is your single pane of glass into the world of NDI. Using that tool, you can find all of the sources that are automatically discovered, auto discovery being a key part that sets NDI apart, and you can find all of the available devices, even on your home router, by name and the channels that they can provide. And with a single click, you can connect to any of those sources, such as those being connected from a laptop using screen capture. Another tool that we include that is also utilized by Panopto is NDI webcam input. That means that anybody using Panopto software tools can install NDI webcam, and NDI webcam announces any NDI source as a webcam and microphone, in effect cheating the system to actually utilizing NDI. And that means that then that laptop source you're creating or one of our cameras all the way through to even our most advanced production systems can be natively integrated with Panopto software tools through one of those free tools there. There are many more tools besides within the suite, but one of the great benefits of this is if you get the tools into the hands of your IT department and your other stakeholders, you can try it out in a risk-free, safe environment to actually test if it's suitable for your institution or company. And at that point then, if you can make the NDI tools work, you can make any NDI device available on the market, available to your users on the network, and scale as far and wide as you wish.
Now that's amazing, and I know our customers and our audience will really appreciate the access to free tools, so thank you. So Liam, as you know, Panopto recently acquired a Gen AI video company and its technology. With AI and video tech advancements reshaping video creation, what do you think the future holds for video capture hardware and software, and how does VizRT plan to stay at the forefront?
The emergence of AI into content creation is an absolutely fascinating space, and it's one that at VizRT we take very seriously. And we've been taking a long, deep, hard look at how AI can be utilised to assist content creation, because we believe that human creativity and input is key to creating great storytelling. Now, that can be things to actually help augment and reduce the number of repetitive tasks somebody might need to do. So that could be as simple as things like keying, for example. We're always having to adjust chroma keying and remove the backgrounds on things. AI can help with that and make that slightly tedious task go away, one that can be reduced, so you can again focus on how you tell and create that type of content that's out there as well. We're also doing things using AI, and we have done actually since 2022 in our TriCaster line, been looking at how we can use it to help improve audio. So for example, we have neural voice isolation that removes background noise automatically, to again ensure that people can create and record content in a wider range of rooms. And we've been introducing AI even into our PTZ cameras with the use of AI camera tracking. So cameras can follow presenters around the room, allowing more engaging natural content, more engaging natural presentation by ensuring that the presenter always remains in shot. We think that the acquisition by Panopto holds a lot of promise and potential for those that maybe aren't so comfortable on camera, particularly with the use of AI avatars to actually create presentation content. But also I think it shows a lot of potential for, say, storyboarding, practice runs, those that are creating the scripts for someone to present, because as we all know, particularly in the corporate space, a lot of presenters, particularly at the higher level, don't like rehearsal time. They don't want to actually waste their time actually running through things again and again, as valuable as the content creators might actually think that is. And so again, it actually shows a lot of value in actually helping prepare that content in there so that anyone can take the stage and actually utilize technologies like VizRT's in partnership with Panopto to create dynamic, engaging content.
So I think it's great that you don't want to reduce or eliminate the human element.
No, and I don't think anybody actually really does. There may be a lot of talk about it. We've seen a lot of the threats that have been perceived by, say, artists and musicians with the AI space. But then, as I said again, it's about being application specific, being aware of AI can aid and help people create content rather than removing them from the content creation pipeline. And I think that's critical for the future success of the technology's deployment.
So Liam, how did you first hear about Panopto? And then tell us a little bit about the Panopto and VizRT journey together.
Personally, I've actually known about Panopto for a number of years, because previously, before joining VizRT about 7 years ago and going on this AV over IP journey, I actually used to work in higher education sales, but before that worked in the higher education sector, doing live streaming and lecture capture as one of sort of the many jobs and roles that I was involved in. So I've kind of been aware of the sort of journey and the emergence of video management systems, and particularly Panopto as a market leader coming onto the market. There was one that people talked about it within the higher education industry. And in fact, when I worked at a higher education reseller, we were a Panopto partner even then, which is also when I first met VizRT. Fast forward a few years to where I'm working at VizRT now, we've actually had a long-standing relationship with Panopto, with some early trials with the UK team a few years back, where we were using that NDI webcam input tool from NDI Tools that's still fully supported today to enable capture through Panopto software tools from the network, whether that be our cameras or our converters. But now as a product manager at VizRT, I'm responsible for those in-room devices such as the PTZ3 Plus cameras, VizConnect Solo converters for driving screens and capturing content, but also CaptureCast, which is a fully Panopto certified appliance for use with Panopto's remote recorders. The key to the success in working between Panopto and VizRT is the open communication that we have, working closely with your London-based office. We're based here in Soho in London as well, which means we're reasonably nearby. But even when we were further afield, the relationship that we had with Panopto, with your different account managers, your business development and your sales engineers has been one of exceptionally close collaboration, which has led us to build and develop these advanced solutions that we have today with that Panopto certified approval, which really helps with those conversations with our partners, particularly if they want to transition into software-based AV over IP.
So Liam, you're clearly passionate about live events. Does that weave into your personal life?
I'm a huge live event fan, and I always have been. My most passion being live music. I've been seeing a number of bands over the years, particularly music festivals where you have the sort of spectacle, but also the actual stagecraft of putting together some of these larger scale events. I'm fortunate enough to have been to Glastonbury about 14 times now. I really hope to get to go at least one more time. Would be great, and seen some incredible bands and performances there. And also most recently, I've just been down at All Points East in Victoria Park, down in East London, nearer to where I live, where I've been fortunate enough to see both Pixies and LCD Sound System on the same headlining set. LCD Sound System has just been one of those bands that's followed me throughout my entire career, from the earliest days when I was doing dubbing tapes after I graduated here in Soho, all the way through to now. And they've just been one of those constants in my life that I've always been incredibly passionate about and will go and see live at any available opportunity.
So that's interesting. So my guess is you're like me. You might like geek out over the video technology and the audio technology. Do you find yourself ever critiquing how things are put together?
Yeah, I can be my own worst enemy when I'm watching a film or seeing a live event, particularly when it comes to using video. And I recall rather fondly a festival a few years back with some friends in London, and they just messaged me and said, "We're here, we've arrived, see you very soon, but by the way, you're going to be annoyed by hell with what's going on the video wall because everything's stretched." And I was like, "I'm sure it'll be fine." Got there, whole day I couldn't look at a single video wall without just going, "Can you just let me backstage? I want to tweak it because you've got your anamorphic and your 16:9 wrong." It can be very hard to separate, but then equally after a little while you just have to let go of these things, and you know, it's part of the live production world. Mistakes happen. You know.
So Liam, being somebody that likes music and live events, my guess is you appreciate good audio. So I always ask this, what's more important, high quality audio or high quality video?
High quality audio first and foremost in any content creation endeavor should come first. And if you don't know actually how to set up a microphone correctly or get levels balanced right, that should be the first thing on your list before you even consider video and cameras. It's getting easier all the time though to handle audio. You know, we're making it easier in our product line and finding ways of streamlining that for our users. But one key thing as well is the better quality audio you have, the easier it is for us to actually pass on that audio to transcription services like those that are in Panopto with smart chaptering and that fantastic inbuilt closed captioning that you have. Because the clearer the audio, the better the AI can process that, analyze that, and make that data useful and meaningful to the end user. But let's not stop there because video quality is increasingly important. It's important for your audio engagement. It's increasingly important to actually create quality effects like we can do with AR and VR within the actual content creation circles. So I'd always say audio first, video close second, but you're never ever going to replace the importance of audio when it comes to great lecture and meeting capture.
So Liam, we just talked about high quality audio and high quality video. Now, when I walked into the studio, I was like, wow, this is really high quality. So tell us a little bit about the studio and the tech behind it.
Here in our London studio, we're trying to create almost like a white cube experience for our customers because we have a wide range of people now looking to create content in their offices, their classrooms, their meeting rooms. And we're seeing a wider range of spaces being adapted and utilised for content creation purposes. Now, we're really fortunate here in that we've also got a really fantastic LED lighting grid in here with just a large LED softbox above us. This was put in by Hatch Broadcasting in Cirrolight and means it runs really nice and cool in here, but we get this really nice, simple to use, really soft lighting in the room. But aside from that, every other device is just NDI based. That's our VizRT PTZ3 Plus cameras, which are actually doing the recording in the studio here, through to our converter devices, which are the VizConnect Solos. And those are actually driving everything from like the lectern behind me that's capturing the screen, through to driving the screen that's in front of us that, can give you some cutaways that you can look at for that later on. But super simple, all NDI based, all network based, but we can easily turn it into just a standard meeting room or event space when we want, or create content like we are today. So an example of how we can use this space here is actually by using AR for content creation. This is a relatively new product that we brought to market, which is called Viz Virtual Studio Go. But we're using the very same cameras that we use for meeting capture and event capture in the space, and then bringing that to life. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hand you this remote control clicker. That's just driving a PowerPoint that's running here on my laptop. And what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to very, very quickly switch over onto the main screen where now you can actually see that, well, we're both in the same room together. So one thing I'm just going to do is now, if you'd just like to forward the slides, just as you would with any other PowerPoint, if you just bring that forward, you can see that we're starting to bring some graphics on screen. Those are just in front of you right now, and we're going to keep all the animations and everything else coming through from those graphics too. But I stress, this is just a standard PowerPoint doing all of this. Now, if you just want to take a little step round to your left, what will happen now is our VisRT PTZ Plus camera is using its tracking AI to track you in the room. It does skeletal and face tracking and allowing you to walk around the space. As you advance through the slides and the graphics, they will actually hang in the air for you and then become completely usable. So while you're presenting, you can illustrate those with your hands, you can bring out key points to life, and actually just deriving that from just standard presentation content as well. Now, of course, with CaptureCast, this can all be driven into Panopto, all controlled by Panopto users, and all you need as a presenter is your laptop and a PowerPoint clicker.
It's pretty magical stuff.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having us. It's quite an honor, and you're doing some great stuff here.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot, and it's always a pleasure working with Panopto.
Thank you for joining us today on the Learning Never Stops podcast. I'm Scott Nadsen from Panopto, and I hope you found today's discussion on everyone being a presenter in enterprise and education with Liam Hayter, product manager from Vizrt, interesting. More importantly, I hope you learned something. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow us on social media for more episodes and updates. If you want to learn more about how video technology transforms the learning experience, visit panopto.com and get in touch. Thank you again for spending your valuable time with us. This is Scott with Panopto. And don't forget, learning never stops.